we have the amazing guest Stefano with us, who's gonna tell us all about expanding to Amazon Europe. And I know that most of our audience is primarily focused on either US or UK market. So we're just really gonna benefit a lot from this discussion and expanding to non-English markets, especially Amazon Germany or Italy. Stefano himself is from Italy, so he's gonna share a lot of the valuable things with us today. So I'm gonna start with Stefano. So can you? I've just tried to introduce you a little bit. So can you just shed more light on how you got into the Amazon and what's your journey been like in the entire Amazon space?
Sure. Thank you, Kisar, for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here with you, and hopefully we can give some value to your audience.
For sure.
So to answer your question, Kisar, I started as a seller back in 2016 in the Spanish marketplace. I'm from Italy, but resident in Barcelona, Spain. So I started in Spain selling dog accessories. At that time, I had a dog and I had issues running with the dog, right? So I needed a special belt with a leash that I could use to run with my dog. That's how my brand started, pretty much. Pretty soon, I created a meetup, started consulting, and that's how my agency started. And nowadays we have a team, an in-house team, and helping brands expand across all European marketplaces. We have helped almost 100 brands in across all different categories. So we are really have seen the ins and out of the platform. We have seen the development. So what we are going to do today, I guess, is talk about that, give the audience some tips. I guess your audience is advanced in the sense that they already have some understanding of what it takes to sell in Europe. So I will skip the basics, although it's important maybe to stress some points in case there is some new seller or somebody that hasn't launched in Europe yet.
Yeah, so you can start with highlighting some of the challenges with North American sellers or the United Kingdom sellers face in terms of expanding to these markets. Oftentimes, we just consider like Italy or France or Spain a very small market, and we think that it's not worth the trouble to expand to those markets. So you can just start by explaining what's the market like and what are the upsides and the downsides of expanding to these markets, the European markets.
Makes sense, Kazar. So we have to mention, first of all, that Europe is not the biggest continent in the world, but many people live in the European countries. Amazon has 5 big marketplaces, and those are Germany, UK, France, Spain, and Italy. There are minor ones that are very irrelevant in terms of revenue, so we'll focus on these 5. E-commerce is growing in Europe. Amazon in Europe is growing 20% year by year. So there are definitely more and more customers shopping there. Warehouses, the same. Amazon is increasing their warehouse net. So it's definitely a growing environment. We have seen D2C shops having issues recently, and they are moving to Amazon. So everybody wants to be on Amazon in Europe, seems to me, nowadays. So the advantage, of course, of selling in Europe is that you have a unified account for all these countries. You can store in one country and ship to the others. If that's for the sellers that are already selling, that are aware of this, we have UK and then mainland Europe. You will have to be compliant with tax, that means VAT. You will have to take care of logistic. You will have to take care of product compliance, but we skip that part. Let's go to the nuts and bolts of this conversation. And maybe I can even share my screen, Kazar, and present the presentation that I have here for you guys. And
Yeah,
we can
for sure.
start. Of course, this is us, Ecom Partner, what we do in Europe. I've already spoken about my experience and what we do, so I will skip this part. This is important to remember. Europe, these are the big 5 countries that I mentioned before, although Amazon has presence in some other marketplaces and also has warehouses in other countries like Poland, Switzerland, Austria. This is the percentage of revenues on average that you could expect in the different marketplaces. As you can see, Germany is number 1.
Yeah, just wait a
Just
second.
because, yes,
Stefano, we can't see your screen. I'm just sharing it, and Yeah, we can see your screen now. You can just maximize it.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah, we can see it now.
Perfect. So I'll start again then, or
Yeah,
well,
that's
anyhow,
fine.
yeah, I was saying about Europe. Well, I have it in the second screen. That's why we can see Europe here, right? We can see the different marketplaces, and we can see the proportion of sales that you get in the different marketplaces. Germany is the biggest. Then we have
Yeah.
the UK, and then it's Italy, France, and Spain. This is what we do, a little bit of our history. We spoke about that before. What we usually do with new brands is, first of all, get an understanding of what they're doing. So this is important. I mean, understand to help brands. We first have to understand what they're doing in terms of products quality, advertising, inventory strategy, product listing, operation and process analysis, and then we can devise a plan of action pretty much.
Yeah.
But let's focus more on the differences between countries in Europe and give the audience some tips. Of course, these preliminary steps are important to really understand what are the keys, right? KPIs to consider in Europe to be able then to grow. So here we can see kind of a breakdown of account health KPI, sales KPI, listing KPI, operations KPI. I guess this is similar to what you guys do in the States, but I would like to stress the fact that Europe, we have different countries with different languages, so it's very important, first of all, to localize the content, and also in terms of content, to translate not just the content, but also the content in the images, right? That's a first tip that I can give to the more advanced audience here, is make sure to translate even the content in your images, because Amazon gives you that possibility. Before, it wasn't possible to load different images for different countries, but right now Amazon gives you that opportunity both in the main listing and in the A+, and of course in the store. So
yeah, I'm just gonna interrupt you here. Sorry. So you prefer localized content. So for example, if we're selling in Spain and Germany, both countries, so you were saying that we should not rely on the translation that Amazon gives us. So we should write separate listing, or maybe get it written from a native writer, and upload the different listing in each market, or at least we have a different SEO. Obviously, we have different SEOs for both market. So you're recommending that we put in content for each market individually based on the SEO of that market.
Exactly, that's the idea.
Okay.
That's the idea. It's going to help. Of course, we know that A+ ranks. So by doing so, you will be ranking in each different market, and you will rank higher and have better listing quality than your competition. As I said, we want to skip all the introductory part, and I will skip how actually to set up shop in Europe, since your audience is more advanced. So I will try to give some practical tips. So content, number one, super important.
Yeah.
That's the first tips that I can give. Video as well. If you're able to put localized translation in the videos, that will definitely help. The same in the images. Of course, I mean, you have to have a great listing, optimize, keyword research has to be done in each country, and sometimes a keywords that rank in number one position in Germany, let's say, does the same in France. So you have to do separate keyword research and understand that shoppers look for different keywords in different marketplaces. That's the first. That's the second. One thing I forgot to mention about the content is that there are differences between people in the different countries, between, let's say, Germany and Spain. Usually German listings are more about features and less about
Okay.
benefits, because Germans are more strict. So you have to be more specific in what you're selling, while in Spain, maybe you can talk about more about benefits and other things. So that's another important to stress. And of course, a native speaker will be able to better localize your listing, definitely.
Definitely,
So
that's a really good advice. Like only we can only learn this from experience, so nobody can just come in and give these tips. So that's a really valuable advice that we can only get from the experience, the sort of experience that you guys have.
exactly. That's very important. And trust me, there are some subtle differences that if you sum them, then they really make a big difference, compounded, right?
For
So
sure, and they're not costing you a lot of money. It does not cost $1,000 to translate a listing. So obviously that they don't cost a lot of money, and in the end they're gonna save you a huge chunk of money. So for sure.
exactly. So that's in terms of content. Uh, of course, we have to remember that we can share reviews across marketplaces, so that's good. Although if I am French and I'm reading a review in Italian, right, it's not going to make a lot of sense. So it's still important to get local reviews, because people still want to read in their own language. When
Yeah,
launching,
for sure.
we have sometimes similar strategies. Other time we have to use different strategies across different marketplaces, just because the competition is different. Maybe in one country you have 5 great direct competitors, in another you have 1 or 2, right? So you really have to study the competition well in each market to understand what is the best strategy in terms of launching and PPC. Of course, as I said, the strategy is not going to be that different, but the application of the strategy is going to be different in terms of bidding, in terms of budget as well, and in terms of which product to give priority. It's very important for us to monitor the performance at the SKU level, right? And since you have 5 countries, then you have to do that for each country. And as I
Yeah.
said, there are products that don't perform so well while they're doing well in another country. So it's important to have that taken care of. Kazar.
For sure.
And then once after we launch, of course, I suppose your audience is well aware of the fact that there are 2 ways that Amazon can that you can use FBA warehouses in Europe. One is
Yeah.
𝗠𝗏𝑢, where you store in each country, and that will mean less costs to fulfill, because if you store in Spain and you ship to Spain, you spend less than storing in Germany and sending it to a Spanish customer. And the second is EU EFN, European Fulfillment Network, where we just store in one country and distance sell to other countries. So usually when a brand starts, it starts with EFN, storing in one country and shipping to the other countries. When you get bigger, then it makes sense to register for VAT in each single European country, and having Amazon fulfill for customers from local warehouses, right?
Yeah,
Uh,
I'm just gonna interrupt here again. So that's the most scary part for a lot of sellers that I have talked to. That they just don't want to get into the VAT complications of different countries. So, what do you guys do? You have any solution for that on how to manage this effectively? Because it's easier to get into the pan European fulfillment network, and it gives you a little bit of discount on FBPs as well. So, what's the easier process like? On what are the requirements for a pan-European fulfillment system?
Well, we have a partner that has a tool that is able to pull data from your account and automatically file the reports for you. But to use 𝗠𝗏𝑢, you have to register for VAT in each and single country where Amazon stores your goods. That means some compliance costs at the beginning, but as I said, at scale, then you will spend less, because you will spend less to fulfill. So it's not that complicated. You just have to have a trusted partner that is able to automate the process. I don't know anyone that does it themselves, because it will be impossible to,
Yeah.
you have to have like either an accountant or a tool like the company we partner with that does it automatically for you. Just remember that at that point you will have one VAT number for each country where you store, and VAT can go from 20 to 25%. So it depends on the country, right? So that's not that complicated. Yeah, if you have good margins, of course, that's important. That's why the initial study makes you understand the feasibility of the project, because of course taxes are a little bit higher in Europe than in the States, I guess.
Definitely. And if the seller is not opting for pan-European fulfillment network, so do we face any sort of delays in terms of shipping? Because in the States, that's what the matters the most. Even if we are giving a 2-day delivery and our competitor is giving a 1-day delivery, the buyer prefers the 1-day delivery over the 2-day delivery. So if we are not enrolled into pan-European fulfillment network, does the buyer have a longer delivery dates when they are purchasing our product, or is it the same from other sellers?
Well, of course, if you're shipping from Germany to Spain, it's gonna take longer to fulfill.
And does that matter in terms of buyer decision? Does that matter in Europe?
Well, as long as you have the Prime badge, not really. I mean, as long as you're using FBA, Amazon will give you the Prime badge, even though you're shipping from Germany to Spain, let's say, right? But of course, it's not gonna be as fast as if you're storing in Spain. Then there are more consideration to be made, whether you need 3PL. Most of the times, actually, bigger brands and even mid-sized brands need that, right? To have an in-between, let's say China and the FBA warehouses, and also for the returns. So we help with that as well, understanding where is better to have the 3PL, depending on your sales volume. If you're selling a lot in Southern Europe, then it makes sense to have it somewhere closer to those countries. Although usually 3PLs, brands that start in Europe have a 3PL in Germany, just because they start there or in the UK, pretty much.
Okay, understood.
And that's in terms of logistic. So let's talk now. We spoke about how to start, what is needed. Then, of course, there is more compliance to be made. You need an EORI number to import. You need some more documentation now from Germany. And then also there is the insurance, right? In the States as well, you need the insurance. So there are some things to take care of. If you have electrical products, of course, then you have to have a certification of the European Union, but that's, as I said, that takes part in the initial stage. Let's go back to give value to the advanced audience that is already selling and doing well. What I usually suggest brands that are selling in Europe is the following: understand who and which are your winner products, and understand. So it's more about catalog improvement. It's more about KPI monitoring and PPC campaigns improvements at that point, right? It's more about cutting that ACOS down, being able to improve your PPC campaigns, do maybe some promotions, some bundles, some more advanced stuff, that not many sellers do in Europe. So at that point, we really have to use, as I said, strategies that allow us to get those first positions, because it can take time, but once you have those first position in Europe, is much easier, in my experience, to maintain that. While the States being more competitive and there are more dirty tricks being played, while in Europe
there are a lot of black hat methods. So is it easier to get ranked on keywords in European market, or is it as difficult as States?
I would say it's easier, just because US, of course, is the biggest marketplaces, much more competition. You have a lot of black hat going on. You have some in Europe, but much less. That's
for sure. I bet there are not as much Chinese in the market, Chinese sellers in the market as compared to US, because recently we have been facing a lot of price wars in US, and that's happens every year around the Q4 time, that we see a lot of price wars. and I've observed that they are not as frequent price wars in European markets. I think that's because of the higher VAT rates and all that. A lot of the sellers who are just trying to sell their products on dirt cheap prices, they don't enter these markets.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly right. Chinese sellers usually they start in the States because, of course, it's complicated even for them. And now
Yeah.
Amazon, for companies that are not incorporated in the EU, the actually is liable for VAT. So they
Yeah.
suspend the seller if they don't pay VAT, pretty much. And actually, there's no way not to pay VAT because they automatically take the money
Yeah.
out of your disbursement, right? So of course, 5 years ago, many sellers were cheating, not paying VAT. But now that Amazon is responsible to monitor that, it's harder, and we have seen less Chinese sellers for that reason, basically.
Yeah. Exactly. You can continue now.
And so I was talking about more advanced strategies. And as I said, having worked with brands across all different categories, we have seen things that work, let's say, in supplement category. What we do first is try to improve the content, videos. Many brands are not doing that. You have to have the best store, you have to have the best pictures, and doing some promotions, so there are really competitive categories where you have to get an edge is much more complicated. I don't know if we have the time to talk about PPC in deep, but the strategies that work in the States work in Europe as well. We have the same ad types, DSP as well. We can use, although of course DSP is for more expensive products, right? So
Yeah.
all in all, I would say
Yeah.
Europe.
I try to keep these sessions under 45 minutes, so we still have like half an hour. So you can just give us a little bit of introduction of what your PPC structures look like when launching in different markets simultaneously. So I think it's easier to maintain just single account in US, and I think it's going to be a bit harder to maintain advertising on 5 different countries. So just tell me how you guys manage it, and are you guys using any sort of software, or you guys create, obviously you guys create campaigns manually on each country, so how are you guys managing it?
So of course, Europe has the added complexity of the multiple marketplaces. That makes it harder to manually having to create campaigns. So of course, there are tools that we use that make it easier to monitor, manage. Although the manual aspect is important, right? So we make sure to use the right balance of manual and tools. But of course, at scale, with 5 countries, you can imagine how complicated it is to daily manually be there and make the changes. So what we suggest is always try a balance between scalability and perfection, right?
Yeah. That's
That's the
perfect.
point.
That's perfect. I share the same philosophy, and I believe that we cannot like automate the entire advertising because we just don't have enough variables in those softwares, and you need to find a balance between the AI or the machine and the human intelligence. So that's for sure. I 100% agree with you.
And that's why we consider PPC a science and an art. The science is numbers, but the art is understanding when, what, how much. That's the hardest part, I guess.
Yeah.
So that definitely takes time, and definitely, of course, it's trial and error. Of course, it's A/B testing, a lot of A/B testing, but the key is have everything in order, everything monitored. You have to be very methodical. You know,
Yeah.
if you're not methodical, if you don't have a proven system with clear steps, then it becomes very hard because then it's just a mess, data coming from everywhere, so you really have to monitor. And as I said, SKU performance and SKU profitability is the key. I would say 80-20 rules. I'm a big 20 rule. I'm a big believer in that. Double down on what is working. Run some experiments, right? If you want to do so with PPC. We also run A/B testing with price, with content. Now Amazon gives you the possibility of A/B testing the content as well, the images. So if you're already doing well and you want to go to the next level, we really have to play subtle, differences, subtle changes. But it's very important to monitor and record that. Just not change everything at the same time, right? So let's go back to PPC a bit.
Okay.
First of all, reviews. We said reviews are shared, so that's very helpful. And I know that you guys use a strategy where you get first reviews from Vine, right? That's a great strategy. So I guess if you're selling the US and you're going to Europe, you already have that advantage. And
Yeah,
usually reviews.
I'm just gonna step in here, and I have this confusion because oftentimes we face problems while importing reviews from a US based listing to a European listing. So how are you guys tackling this? I think I was working on an account, and we opened like tens of cases with Amazon, and in the end we just gave up, and our reviews were not showing up in the European markets. So how you guys tackle with that, or is it just automated for you guys?
Well, first point is the UPC code the same? Is the product the same? Because sometimes the problem is that you are using a different UPC or EAN number. So that's the
It's
first
the
thing
same.
to.
It's the same. We've tried to make sure that everything is same. And Amazon seller support usually says sometimes it says that you cannot have the same reviews in European markets, and sometimes it says something that we have a problem with our listing. So they are also not, the seller support is also not sure. So is it like a smooth process for you guys, and we were the ones who are having difficulty, or you guys face a lot of these campaigns complaints?
Well, we have had the issues like that before where seller support is not able to merge and add the reviews, although recently not so many. But I'm aware that sometimes for any reason, Amazon has technical issues and they are not able to do so. Although, I mean, as many brands we work with that I could even show that their reviews are there. What I would
Okay.
suggest is have a unified account, because if you have like a different account with a different email, maybe that could be the case. Like ideally, you would
Yeah.
have a unified account, you know. Usually when we have unified account, then it's easier. But if you have maybe a different email, I don't know, for some reason, sometimes they're unable to. Maybe we have to reach to a specific team in the States, and they have all different emails you have to reach out to, and they don't communicate within each other. We know that Amazon can be a mess, right? So
Yeah, and we say that when talking to Amazon, it's like talking to a bunch of three graders. So you
yeah,
just have to explain everything step by step. So you to conclude that you guys recommend using a sell global option and have a same account for the European markets and the US market if we are
yes,
expanding from US to Europe.
yes.
Yeah.
In my experience, that gives no problem with reviews. When you have that, usually reviews are easily moved to the other countries. So that's what I see in my experience.
Okay, understood. I think that the sellers would be at a disadvantage because they won't be able to claim VATs in this case, because since they're selling from a US based company and now they're selling in a European market, so they won't be able to claim 7.5% VAT if their smaller account is smaller.
VAT, you mean they claim back VAT?
Yeah, they won't be able to in UK. Like they have the option of flat
Oh, I see.
7.5% VAT. They won't be able to claim that, and that's why we opted to create a different account in UK and try to sell from that account. And I think you rightly pointed out the problem that we had different emails, we had different accounts, although the SN and UPC were same, but the account were different. So that's why probably we couldn't get the reviews. But sellers would be smaller sellers would be at a disadvantage because they won't be able to subscribe to the flat VAT scheme in UK. I
Yes, I
think you guys call
understand.
it VAT. We call it VAT.
Okay. That's understood.
Yeah,
Yeah, there is like a threshold in the UK if you have a local entity under which you don't pay VAT. So that definitely helps a new seller that doesn't have a lot of revenues yet. So I hear
yeah,
you.
yeah,
How could you know that at the end Amazon wouldn't have given you the review? So there was no way for you. But
yeah,
now we know.
yeah. Understood. You can just move on to the next point. I think you were discussing PPC.
So PPC, we said that, we usually start with sponsored products for many reasons. Display are more expensive. We don't know the targeting yet. Depends also on the product, on the category. Sometimes if we have already some competitors in mind and the listing is great, then and the competition is doing a poor job, that's another thing that we do. We analyze, give a score to the competition, and that score allows us to understand whether we can target them from the beginning or not. The more good job they're doing, the less we can use display ads. But if they're doing a poor job, they don't have a store, they don't have A+, they have poor pricing, poor pictures, then we can target them from the get-go. So that's another important point. That why doing a market study and a competition research in each country is important. As I said, because maybe in France they're doing great, but in Italy they're doing poor. And I've seen crazy low bids for display ads where you were converting like 0.25, and we were converting, Ecos was like 6% on display ads.
Exactly. And while creating these campaigns, what sort of data do you look at while shortlisting the keywords? Because in US, it's easier for me to understand what's the intent of a keyword. And now we have SQP dashboard, the BA sheets, and I think that in European markets we don't have all of these, especially the SQP dashboard and a lot of more things that Amazon, the data that Amazon is revealing. So how do you guys go about keyword research in these markets?
Well, of course, there are tools that we can use, right? And in terms of keyword research, we target longer term keywords at the beginning. We want to rank for those. As I said, keywords are different. We don't just translate the keywords. We do a keyword research for each country, and we do that constantly because shoppers search for using different keywords. So don't assume that by translating to English in the local marketplaces, those are the right keywords. That's very important to mention, and make sure that your keywords are in the content that you're having. So first thing we do with a new brand is auditing the content and seeing if the right keywords are in the title. As I said, 80-20 rules is king. If you have the best keywords there in the title, you're going to make 80% of the sale with 20% of the keyword or even more. So that's very important in my opinion.
Exactly. And oftentimes we see like there are like just a few, like maximum five keywords with more than 500 or 1,000 search volume in most of the niches in these markets. So it's really easier for sellers to just focus on certain keywords and rather not worry about that they have to target all 40 keywords. So it's easier for sellers to just laser focus their spend on certain keywords.
Exactly, that's the key. You don't want to spread out too thin, although you want to put different, because we know there are different type of keywords. There are long-term keywords, there are high volume keywords, there are low volume keywords with low competition. So you have to put different type of keywords and see which, sometimes you will be surprised, like low volume keywords that nobody's using and you convert a lot, right? Other times is more about targeting those long-term keywords that have mid volume, right?
Agreed.
So it's case by case. There's no standard rule. Often it can be intuition as well. Also, one thing that helps is studying the content of your competition, right? And understand, okay, what are they using in the title? That's one thing that we do. Does it make sense for us to have the same title? Or maybe we have to change it. Otherwise, put yourself in the shoes of the customer. If you see a title that looks exactly the same like another product, but the other products are more reviews, and good pictures, which you're going to buy. So maybe you have to be creative with the title. If all the competitors have long titles, make a short title. If they have short titles, make a longer. You know what I mean? Like sometimes also
I get that. And can you guys get the data, like for example in sales I can get the data that this competitor or this seller has converted this much on this specific keyword? So can you get that data from Amazon or from any other tool apart from Amazon, that this seller is converting well for these sort of keywords, so you can just target those? or you just have to base that on the helium 10 ranking formula that we usually use? And so what's the process like? Can you get that sort of data that this seller has converted this much percentage on this keyword, so you know that for sure that this is a good keyword and you should be targeting that?
Well, Helium 10 is a great tool for Europe as well. So that brand analytics can help,
Okay. So,
right?
okay. So we have brand analytics for all of these markets, right?
Yes,
Okay. Okay. I think that gives you pretty good data when you merge the helium 10 data from BA sheet, and I think this sets you up for a very ballpark figure that these are the keywords that we should use.
exactly. And then, as you said, it's important to not go too broad. And then there are many nuances, but that's the main strategy. And
Yeah.
then next step is understanding how much of brand you want to build. Do you want to build brand awareness or not? That's another important thing. What is the
Yeah.
price point of your products, right? Shall we run? Is your product visual? Shall we focus more on video ads or not? So there are all sort of consider. What are you doing? Also, we have to consider the current strategy in their D2C store. What is the impression you want to give to the brand if your brand is already established? And also, do we want to use Amazon as a showcase for your D2C store? Do we want to take sales away from competition? Do we want to have them buy one of your products, few of your
Okay.
products, and
Yeah.
then,
So, what
you
sort
know?
of strategy do you guys have in mind? Like, for example, I'm a seller and I have 20 SKUs and I'm selling good. I'm selling around like seven figures or maybe $2 million per annum in US, and I have 20 SKUs, and my products have good potential in the European market as well. And I launched there. So, what sort of strategy would you guys have in order to build a brand? Because in US we do like all sort of things. We run sponsored brand ads, sponsored display ads for the awareness, and then sponsored brand ads on a keyword level, and then we do some of the influencer marketing, bringing some traffic from Google ads, and TikTok influencers are in trend right these days, than Instagram. And so what's the strategy like in when we're talking about Europe? Is it like solely focus on platform based, that we just focus the entire brand building strategy on sponsored display ads and sponsored brand ads, or do you guys do the external traffic and stuff?
Well, we have done external traffic before, although usually we try to focus on Amazon. I mean, we know that we can run Google Ads, bring customers to Amazon. However, most of the owners would want to focus more on their store and bring that traffic to the store. So in that case, we have to talk with the brand and decide. You have to coordinate the strategy with them, right? Maybe at the launch phase, it's important to get ranked, to get some outside traffic, and bring maybe some traffic from Instagram or their newsletter to
Yeah.
Amazon just to rank those products. But then once you're ranking, usually then we rely just on Amazon traffic. So
Okay.
that's a common
Okay.
strategy.
I
You
think that
guys,
that makes more sense, since you cannot retarget the buyers by email marketing in Europe yet. So I think that makes more sense that we just use the external traffic to offset the higher conversion rate and the higher click through rate in the launch phase, and then we can later tune down the external traffic to other platforms such as Shopify store or the website that the brand is already selling on. So I think that makes more sense.
yes, exactly. That's so. I guess we have similar strategies.
Yeah, it's the same thing, and like it's great so far talking to you, and you have shared like quite valuable stuff that I didn't to be honest knew already, because I'm not working on a lot of these markets, and I want to scale the brands that we are managing at Seller Exa to these European markets. So I'm learning a lot, and these are very really good tips, and I'm gonna try to figure out how we can just maneuver some brands from US, and maybe move some competitive products that we have ranked quite well and we're selling quite good in US to these markets. Because obviously if you just consider these as a unit, so France is not going to give us $10,000 a month sale, but if you just accumulate all of these smaller markets, in the end it's going to make a lot of difference in terms of the profits and the revenue. So definitely nobody should be taking these for granted, and all of us who have good listings should definitely think about this and at least explore the markets if they're a right fit for our product. If we don't have too much competition and there are not a lot of seller with a lot of massive reviews, so all of us should definitely think about this and try to see if our products has a potential to do good in the market.
Exactly. That's exactly what we do at Ecom Partner. Whether you're selling already in Europe, whether you're not, we have more established brands, we have startups, we work with aggregators, we work with brands that want to sell to aggregators. So we can help smaller brands or more established. But most important, the team is made of native speakers. That really helps. And we have a very good understanding of the Amazon platform. Since we just do this, we just do Amazon Europe. That's our only focus.
Yeah.
I'm a big believer in be the best, but focus on one particular
Yeah,
service.
that was the next question that I had for you. Why are you guys just focus on Amazon Europe? Because I believe that the US market is much bigger than that. So why are you just solely focused on Amazon Europe?
Because I think there are a lot of complexities already to be taken care of, and there's a lot of demand. There's a lot of sellers that need help with that. While the US, first of all, even from a point of view of an agency, there are many service providers like you already, and we don't know the market that well. So we have partners like you that help our sellers there. So from our point of view, since we are Europeans, we live in these countries, we know these countries, we know the differences. So it makes sense to focus just on this and have partnerships with other agency for D2C or for Amazon US. Because by doing this, we're able to provide a higher service to our client. I don't believe in agencies that offer everything, Facebook, Google, Amazon,
Yeah.
I really think being great
Yeah.
at
And I
one
think
niche
I
is,
totally agree with you. Jack of all trades, master of none. So it doesn't really help you. You need to be a
yes,
master of one trade, master of one specific niche, and just make your name there. And I think that's a very good strategy. And you guys are solving genuine problems that a lot of sellers, even if they are making millions, and they are not able to figure these things out that you guys are helping with. So I think that's a very good offer. And I would like just moving towards the end, do you have any platform where the audience, if they are interested in knowing more about how you guys can help their specific brand and maybe do an audit for their brand, so where they can reach out to you?
sure, they can send me an email at Stefano at ecompartner.global. And the
Okay.
website, of course, is ecompartner.global. I guess you will put in the
Yeah.
show notes. We offer a free consultation call. In the case you're really serious and you want to go ahead with us, then we can help you from A to Z, as I said, from putting in touch with partners that can help with compliance, all kind of compliance, logistic, 3PLs, and then our focus is, of course, in content creation, launching, managing accounts, PPC campaigns. We manage accounts in full, where we also take care of customer support, seller support, inventory level management, or we just do the growth part, that is PPC promotions. It depends on the needs of the client. Sometimes they just want to, as they want us to manage PPC. Other times they also want us to have a look at their pricing. Although we manage some brands in full, where they just tell us, hey, look, Stefano, please manage our account in Europe, take care of everything, and we can do that as well.
Yeah, I think that's a great offer. So moving towards the end, my last question from you would be, because you're a former brand owner, so what is the one advice that you would like to uh, give to the new sellers, or one thing that you would have wished that you knew before you launch your first product on Amazon?
Well, one advice that I give is do something that you love.
Okay.
So I did love my brand, but if I had to go back, I would reconsider the amount of capital actually that you need to scale a product-based business. Nowadays, you have many options in terms of funding, but back then it was harder to get funding. So don't overestimate your ability to be cash flow positive. Cash flow is very important in this business. So make sure to take care of that part if you want to grow. Definitely that's super important nowadays, especially when we have issues with the supply chain from China. Price is increasing, so you have to have some money in the bank to kind of help you with those emergencies.
Yeah, definitely. I share the same views. Like, just keep this thing in mind that the sellers that you are competing against, they might have like the initial PO of $1 million. So just keep these things in mind when you're launching a brand. Just don't go and launch on a keyword that has a million search volume, or at least 100,000 search volume. Just choose your market wisely. Do cash flow planning. Have at least 6 to 8 months of cash flow in hand. And I share the same advice as you. So, anything else that you would like to add, Stefano, today?
No, thank you, Kithar, for this opportunity. It was a great pleasure. And as I said, we do this audit for seller for free, just for your listeners for today. So that's the offer for today. Thank you, Kithar. It was a great pleasure, and we'll keep in touch.
Thank you very much, Stefano. It was definitely good to have you, and hopefully we'll have a session again on some other topic.
Thank you.
Take
And
care.
thank you to the listeners as well
Bye bye.
for
Yeah.
listening to this. Bye bye.